Nintendo finally revealed a lot of new information about the Switch 2. I've been waiting for this console for years, so I'm very excited about this. And in this video, I'm going to rank my top 10 reveals from today's Nintendo Direct. So let's get started. So first, we finally learned what the C button does, and it's actually part of this whole online push that Nintendo seems to be doing for the Switch 2. I think this is interesting because Nintendo is usually not super into letting people talk to each other online. Communications are usually pretty limited, so we can probably expect that this will be limited as well, and you'll only be able to communicate with your friends. But it also shows that Nintendo seems to be pushing toward online a bit more. So I guess if they are gonna push online so much, let's hope that the quality of the online is a bit better this time and games don't lag too much. There's a new Kirby Air Ride game coming called Kirby Air Riders. I think almost nobody expected this to be announced. Sadly, I think this news falls a bit flat because there will be a Mario Kart game available at launch for the Switch 2, and this will scratch the itch for a racing game for a lot of people. One very interesting detail is that Masahiro Sakurai is directing this game, so that means that he's not been working on a Smash game up until now. This makes me a bit nervous because I don't want to wait 4 or 5 years to play the next Super Smash Bros. Game. There is a chance that maybe someone else will be directing the next game in the series, so I guess we'll have to wait and see. There will be 2 bundles available, one with just the console and one bundled with Mario Kart World. A lot of people have been freaking out about the price of the console, and indeed, it's quite high, but considering the specs of the Switch 2, I think it's reasonable. I bought the first Switch on launch day, and it turned out to be a great move because this console never received a price cut. So I feel like with Nintendo consoles, you don't really get punished for being an early adopter. For certain Switch 1 games, you'll be able to buy an upgrade pack to get an improved version of the games along with some extra content. This is quite interesting. It feels a bit like DLC, but that is actually tied with buying a new console. I expected them to do something like this for Metroid Prime 4, but it's interesting to see that they're also adding extra content for other Switch 1 games that have been out for a little while, like Mario Party Jamboree and Kirby Forgotten Lands, for example. I really wonder if this is a new business strategy from Nintendo, and maybe they'll keep making Switch 1 games further into the life of the Switch 2 than we expect, and use these upgrade packs to give more content to Switch 2 players while still being able to sell games to people that only bought a Switch 1. The Donkey Kong franchise has received a huge overhaul, and this time the game seems to be all about destructible environments. I'm really happy that this will launch in July. So technically it's not a launch title, but really it almost feels like one. This game seems very exciting, although I do feel like the art style has something a bit weird about it, but I'm looking forward to see more, and I hope there will be more characters than what was shown so far. GameCube games are going to be added to the Virtual Console, and this is huge to many people. That console has a lot of masterpieces in its catalog. Another thing that they showed that is a big deal is the ability to remap buttons. I don't know if they will add remapping to other Virtual Consoles like the Nintendo 64, because before you couldn't, and that was a big problem. When playing some N64 games with a Pro Controller, the mapping was so atrocious that I couldn't play some of these old games. But now if they allow remapping for all the Virtual Console games, we might be able to salvage a bit how some of these games are played. They showed a few games that will be available, but I think one game that a lot of fans will be waiting for is Super Smash Bros. Melee. This game still has a really dedicated fan base. I personally still play it on my GameCube, and I think it's one of the most fun of the franchise. Metroid Prime 4 was barely mentioned during this Nintendo Direct, but they did confirm that we will be able to use the controller mouse mode for aiming, which is going to be amazing. This will also show us the potential for other shooting games like Splatoon, and I'm very excited to try it out. This game also allows you to choose between focusing on graphics or performance, and as far as I know, it's the first time that Nintendo ever gave this kind of control to players. So it's going to be very interesting to see if this becomes the norm with the Switch 2, or if this is just an isolated case. One of the biggest mysteries about this console was how good the specs were gonna be. So we were all curious to see how powerful this new console would be compared to the previous Switch, to see if it's worth buying. I've seen a lot of rumors online saying that this console would not render in 4K even when docked. So I was really glad to see that this was false and this console can output 4K on a TV. We also learned that this console could handle up to 120 FPS. So overall, it seems like it's much more powerful than what many people were expecting. expecting. I'm happy about this because already we're seeing some really cool games announced for the Switch 2, like Elden Ring and Final Fantasy VII Remake, and a bunch of other games that would have been way too demanding for the Switch 1. It seems that this console will be relevant for many years ahead, but then it's also why it costs so much. Okay, now we're entering crazy reveals territory. No one expected a new game from Software, exclusive to the Nintendo Switch 2, and on top of that, this game looks like it's part of the Bloodborne universe, which was a game only available on PS4. As a huge fan of From Software, and of Bloodborne in particular, this blew my mind, and it would have been the best reveal in this Nintendo Direct if it wasn't for the fact that this game has been described as a multiplayer game, and based on the footage that we've seen, it seems like this game might be similar to Night Rain rather than Bloodborne, but it's still a bit too early to tell right now. We don't really know enough about this game to really know for sure. Personally, when I play From Software games, I love to play solo and explore these incredible worlds, find crazy loot and defeat huge bosses, and I hope that this game will give me that experience somehow. It might seem a bit ironic that I'm wrapping up my top 10 reveals with the first thing that they showed in the Switch 2 presentation, but I guess they really knew what they were doing when they started the presentation with this game. Mario Kart World looks absolutely incredible, and this is coming from someone that's not a big fan of Mario Kart in general. I usually only like Mario Kart games when I'm playing with friends, and I never play them by myself. Yet this is one of the most popular Nintendo franchises, so in my mind I didn't expect them to make such bold changes to the game. I really think that they could have just kept making the same formula as before, a bunch of maps, a bunch of characters, and people would have kept buying it. But now they really reinvented this whole franchise. Now we have this big open world. All the races are part of this world, and you can drive from one to the other. There's a free roam mode, and knowing Nintendo, I'm sure there's going to be a ton of secrets to find around this world. And to be honest, I've never been as excited for a Mario Kart game in my life. So that was my top 10 reveals for the Switch 2 Direct. I thought this presentation was amazing. I can't wait to line up to get this console on day one. And once I get my hand on it, I'll be recording footage and sharing my thoughts on the Switch 2. So yeah, I can't wait. In the meantime, thank you for watching and see you next time.